Home sellers in Wesley Chapel, Florida are facing major headaches and major setbacks right now. So, if you're thinking about selling your home in Wesley Chapel in 2025, you might want to watch this video, because selling at the wrong time or with the wrong strategy can cost you thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars. Now in this video, we're going to dive into why sellers in Wesley Chapel, Florida are facing such tough market conditions at the moment, what's driving the volatility, and then we'll talk about how you can avoid some of the mistakes that are costing people thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. Hi guys, Ross Hardy from the Hardy team at RE/MAX Marketing Specialists, and we help over 200 families a year in the Tampa Bay area and have been for the last 20 years. Now, if you're interested in getting any information about moving to Wesley Chapel, Spring Hill, Brooksville, or the greater Tampa Bay area, or what you need to do when it comes to selling your property in Wesley Chapel, Spring Hill, Brooksville, or Tampa Bay, be sure to reach out to us at the information below here. You can set up a Zoom call, you can call, text, email, send a smoke signal, whatever you want to do. And it doesn't matter if you're 9 days away or 99 days away, there's never a bad time to start doing your research and asking questions so that when the time does arrive, you're in the best position to take advantage of the market conditions. Okay, so what I want to do is first of all is start by looking at some of the market conditions in Florida, but in particularly in Wesley Chapel at the moment. But first of all, it's great to take a kind of 30,000 foot view of what the conditions are like in Florida, because if you're not in Florida at the moment, the chances are your market might look substantially different than where we are. Now, it's worth noting that Florida is well ahead of some of the emerging trends that we're seeing in other marketplaces at the moment. So if you're tuning into the news, you're probably seeing stories about inventory levels rapidly increasing, or home prices may be starting to decrease. And the thing is with Florida is we've been ahead of that curve. That happened to us about 18 months or so ago, and we're now coming through the next period of our transition into market conditions here. So whereas the rest of the country is still seeing, in many cases, appreciating prices, in 66% of home selling markets in Florida, the home prices are actually decreasing. And Tampa Bay is one of those markets. Home prices were down about 2.1% in 2024. Not huge numbers, but worth noting that it is very, very different to a number of the markets across the country. And again, one of the trends that we're going to see that we're far, far ahead of in Wesley Chapel or in the Tampa Bay market is the inventory numbers. So again, like I said, you're going to hear these stories coming out in the news about increasing inventory numbers. Again, we've pretty much already been through that trend here. Now, it's important to talk about the inventory numbers, and Wesley Chapel has seen a huge increase in the number of resales over the last 4 years in the marketplace. So let's go back to November of 2021 when there were just 275 resales in the MLS. Now, we know inventory was tight in that market. It was basically the best time to be selling a home. Fast forward to November of 2023, there was 754 resales in the MLS for sale in Wesley Chapel. And then in November of 2024, we're looking at 957, almost 1,000 resales, almost 4 times the number of homes compared to November of 2021. Now that in and of itself would be a scary thing for sellers to be contemplating, but there's also 2 other factors that come into effect here. The first one is that we are coming off of almost record low demand from buyers. So 2024, it's just been unveiled, was the lowest number of resales in the US in some 30 years. 1995 was the last time that home sales were this low. In fact, just over 4 million home sales in the US in 2024 compared to 6.3 million 3 or 4 years ago. So again, we've seen about a 30% decrease in the buyer demand during that time, as well as a 2-3x increase in number of homes for sale. But again, that doesn't tell the whole picture of the inventory market in Wesley Chapel. The other part of the story is that there are a record number of new builds going on in that area. And so it's not just resales that you're competing with in Wesley Chapel, you're competing with, to a large degree, more the new builds, because they are offering incentives to buyers that make it more affordable and more appealing to go with a new build than it does with a resale at the moment. So let me tell you how that might look. If you bought your home in Wesley Chapel 2 or 3 or 4 years ago from the builder, first of all, the chances are that your home is not worth any more than what you paid for it. The second thing is that the builder is likely selling that same home for around about the same price as it was during that time frame. Now, we all know that typically resales or homes that are a couple of years old are not going to be as much as the builder's model homes. Because you're a couple of years into the warranty, somebody's already lived in the property. It's the same premise as a car losing some of its value as soon as you drive it off the lot. But let's just say you're even in the same ballpark price-wise as what the builder is offering. Unfortunately, the builders are really stepping up the game when it comes to offering concessions. So we're seeing builders offering 4.875 for an interest rate for purchasers, as well as paying $10, $15, in some cases $25,000 towards their closing costs. So now you're in a situation where you may have your home listed over here for $350,000 and the builder has the same home essentially for maybe $375,000, maybe $395,000 even. But they're giving a $20,000 credit towards the buyer's closing costs. And the key at the moment is they're buying down that interest rate from 7.5% to 4.875 or 5%, giving considerable savings to the new homeowner of hundreds and hundreds of dollars per month. Now, at a time when affordability is key and really at a crisis point in some areas, this is the deciding factor in a lot of people's purchasing decision when it comes to buying a new home. So that in a nutshell is the general conditions of the market that sellers are trying to work through in Wesley Chapel at the moment. But how does that tie into losing dollars or tens of thousands of dollars when it comes to selling your home? Well, the first part of it is, like I mentioned, home prices in Wesley Chapel and in the Tampa Bay market in general are slightly declining at the moment. So that means a couple of things. It means, first of all, that the longer you wait to list your property, the chances are it's going to be worth slightly less than it is today. If home prices are decreasing about 2% per year, and you wait from now, February, until the end of the year to list your house is going to be worth less at the end of the year than it is today. So immediately you have about 2% of the value wiped off. And then the second part of that is that homes are sitting around on the market longer now. Now, average days on market during the peak was about 14 for resales. That's now up over 65, 75 in a lot of niches of the market in the Tampa Bay area. I even saw one stat the other day that certain places and certain price points are now over 200 days on the market. And again, what that means is the longer your home sits on the market, two things happen. First of all, of course, the price is slightly decreasing all the way along over time. And the second part is, I'm sure you've all heard the old tale that the longer a home sits on the market, typically the less money it sells for, because you have to undergo price reductions to freshen up the listing. And when people are looking at it on Zillow, Realtor.com, or looking at how many days it's been on the market, the first instinct is, what's wrong with that home? It must be overpriced. So waiting in this market doesn't necessarily help you any when it comes to listing, and staying on the market longer most assuredly does not help you. Now, another part of the problem in the resale market in Wesley Chapel is that you have competition or other sellers that are working with very definite timelines when it comes to selling their property. So it could be that they have to be in a new state for a new job by May 1st. It could be that they have to be in their new state before the kids go back to school. All of these things, as that time gets nearer and nearer, is going to lead to them making more and more concessions on their sales price in order to get the desired outcome that they want. Now, how this might affect you as a home seller is that if your neighbor all of a sudden decides to sell $15,000 below the market value for that neighborhood, that now becomes a comparable sale for yours. And although it doesn't mean your home will sell for $15,000 less because it's only a weighted average of a group of comparables, it will undoubtedly bring down the home value of your property. So you're dealing with people who are a little bit more desperate and a little bit more needy than you maybe are to sell your property. And that's never good for home values. And then the biggest problem that we're seeing at the moment with the huge number of homes for sale compared to 3 or 4 years ago, and the large inventory of new builds. In fact, most home builders are reporting they've not had this level of inventory in a good number of years, is that it's a struggle to stand out and differentiate yourself from the competition. Now, if you're in a neighborhood and someone's looking to purchase a home there, go back 3-4 years ago, it may have been there were only 2 or 3 properties for sale in the entire neighborhood. Now that number's much likely to be closer to 15 or 20, and what are people going to do? They're going to start looking at which ones give them the most bang for their buck. So the only way you're going to stand out from that is to either be priced the lowest or to give people more value for the same amount of money. In other words, do upgrades and improvements to the property and make sure it shines when people come to look at it. So what tips and actionable advice can we give you if you're looking to sell your Wesley Chapel home in 2025? Well, the first one is you want to price your home competitively in this really tight market of high inventory and low buyer demand. Now, I want to be very clear. This does not mean give your home away. It means price competitively and be within the margins that people are going to expect in this marketplace. So I was just checking out the data this morning, and the average list to sell price ratio is about 97.8%. So about 2% of wiggle room from the list price when it goes under contract to the sales price. So what this means is you don't want to price it 10% over market value and say, well, I'm open to offers, because it's just not going to happen. Real estate agents and consumers know the market conditions and know that they're expecting that property to sell within 2 or 3% of the list price. So if you're way out of whack, they're going to assume that you're not going to be taking really low ball offers, and they're probably not going to come and even take a look at your home in the first place. Although sites like Zillow are a great place to start your research, they are not real estate agents. So in other words, they just use an algorithm to compute your home's value. So I'll give an example of the downfall of this, is that there's certain neighborhoods I know where living on one side of the road compared to the other can cause a $15,000, $20,000 differentiation in price. Now, this is particularly true in golf course areas or areas where the street might back up to a main road on the one side. Another reason might be if you have a pool and your neighbor doesn't have a pool, but you have the same builder's model, they're probably going to value your homes very closely together, where in most cases, a pool on a resale will add somewhere around $25,000, maybe $30,000 of value. So it's always great to seek the advice of a real estate professional. Someone like myself who has been involved in accounting back in the UK and is numbers driven. I'm going to dive into the data and make sure that I'm making adjustments for all of the differences that your property has compared to the comparables to try and give you the most accurate reflection of what an achievable price might be in this challenging market. Of course, it stands to reason the more people you get in through the door to see your home, the greater chance you have of selling it, and the greater chance you have of selling it for a higher price. If no one's even coming to look at it, you're going to get in that cycle of doing price reductions where then you're really just trying to catch up to the market while other people are doing price reductions at the same time, so you never quite catch up to that level. Now, the second thing you can do is home staging or upgrading, updating the property. Now, upgrading and updating doesn't always mean full-on renovations. It can be very simple and subtle things that can make a big difference to your property. So we're always big proponents for a fresh coat of paint and making sure the landscaping looks A+, but it can be taking out old looking carpets and putting in some really nice LVP. It can be putting in wood floors, which give you a really good return for your money. If maybe your appliances are mismatched, make sure that you match them all up so you don't have a white microwave and a stainless steel refrigerator. It can be changing out light fixtures to make them a little bit more modern. So there's some really simple things to do. Now, on the larger side of home renovations, you might be looking at something like an AC replacement or a water heater replacement. Or the biggest one that we're seeing issues with at the moment are roof replacements, where insurance companies are really starting to get finicky over roofs that are 15, 16 years old or more when it comes to insuring them for new purchases. We're seeing roofs come back in inspections on probably about 1 in 3, 1 in 4 deals at the moment. So being able to get one step ahead of that and replacing your roof prior to listing is going to pay dividends. And again, it makes you stand out from the competition if your neighbors have not done that. And then home staging is always great if your property is not going to be lived in and is going to be listed vacant. And again, there's 2 reasons for this. The first one is that there's going to be a bunch of other vacant homes on the market that have no furniture in them. And after a while, they all kind of blend into one another. If you're looking at the pictures online, it's hard to differentiate one from the other. The second part of that is perspective. So again, if you have 50, 60 pictures of your property online, which hopefully you would do, then looking at 50, 60 pictures of blank rooms with walls, windows, and floors doesn't really give the new homeowner or purchaser a perspective on what that home is like. Having furniture in there can tell this is a secondary bedroom, this is the living room or the dining room. Oh, this will fit a king-size bed or will fit an 8-seat dining table. So it really helps them imagine the space and know if their furniture will fit in the space, and again, helps it stand out from the rest of the competition. I personally would never go through 60 pictures of an empty house with no furniture in it. I would get bored after the first 4 or 5 and probably move on to the next one. And of course, home staging is relatively inexpensive compared to price dropping. So you might be looking at a $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 price drop. The cost of staging a home is significantly less than that. And homes that are staged have been shown to sell quicker and for a slightly more money than homes that are not. Now, something else you're going to want to make sure you're taking advantage of if you're selling your property is that you're using all of the marketing advantages and strategies that are out there. So some of the ones that I see cruelly underused at the moment are video, like the ones you're watching right now. So we do 3 or 4 different types of video per listing that we have, depending on the media platform that we're putting it on. So you can imagine a YouTube video like this that might be 10, 15 minutes long is much different than a 15, 20, 30-second reel that you're watching on Instagram. And that should be the same for home tours as well. So make sure that your agent is using the best and varied methods of video to expose your property to the highest number of people. And then while we're on that topic as well, social media advertising is very, very poorly used by the majority of agents. Yeah, they'll tell you they do social media advertising, but what they're doing is posting it to their personal page where all of their friends can see it anyway. So what we do is we go a step further. We do targeted social media campaigns to different demographics in different geographical areas with the different types of video to get people reaching out for more info who are actually interested in your house. And then the third thing you want to make sure of in this market is that you're exposing it to the most agents that you possibly can. So again, there are different MLS systems for different areas, but what we found is that being a member of Citrus, Hernando, and Stella MLS, which covers 16 counties around the Tampa Bay and Orlando area, gives it the most exposure. Now, if you want to talk about marketing strategies, you can reach out to us in the contact information below. I'd love to talk to you about it as well. It's something I'm super passionate about and I really think makes a huge difference to homeowners. And again, if you're not utilizing those, you are possibly leaving thousands of dollars on the table. Now, what you might want to consider is competing with the builders. Now, what I mean by that is offering closing cost concessions to buyers or offering a buy down on the interest rate. You can talk to lenders and see how that works. I'm not going to give you the information myself. I'm not a mortgage broker, but they can tell you essentially how much you can buy down the purchaser's interest rate if you were to offer 2 or 3% of the purchase price towards a buyer concession. It's a really, really clever way to compete with builders, again, where it's most competitive, which is for the interest rate, or consider if you might have an assumable mortgage. Again, if you have a 2.75, 3% mortgage rate on your property, see if the new buyer is able to take that over and make it more affordable. And the final one I will say is always remember to be flexible where you can. Now, it's not just purchase price, although that's obviously the primary factor for most people. There are other terms in the contract where people are very, very inflexible, not understanding the buyer's needs. So we talked about job relocations or schools. If people are needing to be into a property by a certain time frame and it's not a killer for you to make that happen, give up a little bit. I know it might suck to move between Christmas and New Year, but a lot of people want to be into the home prior to January 1 so they can take advantage of the homestead exemption in Florida, which could save them potentially thousands of dollars per year. It's a big deal for people. So if it's something like that, try to put yourself in the buyer's shoes, try and be flexible where you can. I've been doing real estate for 20 years, and I always say that the seller always thinks they could have got more for the property, the buyer always thinks they could have bought it for less, and the real estate agents are just the poor schmucks caught in the middle trying to make everybody happy. But make sure you work with a real estate agent who understands the art of negotiation and how to get you as close to your terms as you want. Very rarely do you get every single part of it. So guys, I hope that helps you when it comes to how you can avoid losing thousands, or not tens of thousands of dollars when selling your home in Wesley Chapel in 2025. I want you to leave a comment below and let me know what your main concern is about this market if you're considering selling your home. And I'll see if I can talk to you about it and maybe help talk you off the ledge when it comes to that. Now make sure you do a few things, like I said. Make sure that you like the video, leave a comment, and then hit the notifications bell and subscribe to the channel. That way you're going to be kept up to date with all of the new videos we release for new home tours, as well as things like pros and cons of living in a city, the cost of living, how to avoid home buying, and home selling mistakes. And of course, you can call us, email, text, set up a Zoom, whatever you want to do if you have more specific questions that need to be answered. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got some value from it. Until next time, I'm Ross Hardy from the Hardy team. It's time to love where you live.